Hey there, welcome back to our Harkla YouTube channel. We're so happy to have you here with us again today. Welcome if this is your first time. Hey, I'm Rachel.
I'm Jessica. We're the Certified Occupational Therapy Assistants with Harkla. And today we're doing a Q&A episode where we answer your questions on the video.
Yep, we got a ton of questions from Instagram and we had so many we couldn't put them all in one video because it would be an extremely long video. So we broke them up into like different types of questions, and this segment is going to be activities and exercises that we recommend based on your questions.
First question. What are the top 5 exercises or things to do to support 4-year-old development? This is a really good question. 4-year-olds are lots of fun. Top 5 exercises or activities for 4-year-olds. What's your first one?
I would say supporting their emotional development would be really key at this age. I feel like we have a lot of emotions that start to stir and we're learning about them. So incorporating verbiage and visuals like the zones of regulation or the alert program and just having those conversations of, it's okay to have these big feelings. We're here, we're working together, we're co-regulating. So I think an activity or an exercise to incorporate would be using those visual tools to help them see and understand their emotions.
Yep. The next one that I would recommend would be a lot of jumping and crashing. You can do this very easily at home with pillows and blankets, couch cushions. If you have a large bean bag, that's a great option. And do some running and crashing into these, jumping and crashing. This is a really fun activity to do a couple of times throughout the day, maybe first thing in the morning to help wake up. If your 4-year-old goes to like a daycare or a preschool of some sort, make sure they're doing it afterwards if they are feeling the need to move and jump afterwards. It's a great bedtime activity as well to help them get all of their excess energy and wiggles out, maybe like an hour before bedtime.
Okay, the next one, I would say working on their upper body, their hand strength. At about 4 years old, we're starting to figure out how to color and hold a pencil and establish that hand dominance and start to work on some of those fine motor skills. So I would really focus on building some of the upper body strength, the postural strength, and the grip strength. So doing things like crawling, animal walks, climbing trees, really like big body movements that require upper body strength and core strength rather than continually practicing like writing your letters and drawing your name, and just really take it back a step and make sure that we have those underlying upper body muscles developed before we're going to put a pencil in their hand.
Another really good one for that is going to the playground and getting on the monkey bars and having your child just hold their body against gravity on the bar. It's like a straight arm hang. See how long they can hold it. Maybe you do it with them and see who can hold the longest. Let them win if you feel inclined to do so. This is a really great way to build that hand and upper body strength.
Another one I would say like riding bikes or riding a balance bike, a scooter, some more of those gross motor skills, the bilateral coordination. I just hear so many kids who are like, oh, well, my kids don't ride bikes. And I'm like, well, they're 5. Like, this is a good age that we should be incorporating this. So making sure that we're just getting outside and working on some of those like big gross motor skills too.
Another one, I guess this would be number 5, is Bubble Mountain. If you've watched any of our other videos, this is a go-to activity for so many things and so many children. By 4 years old, we want our child to be knowing how to blow through a straw, blow bubbles, so they can learn how to do Bubble Mountain, where you fill up the bowl with water, squirt some dish soap in, and use a straw to blow a big, huge bubble mountain. It's fun, it's exciting, it has that visual cause and effect, while simultaneously be very regulating for the nervous system because of the deep breaths that are required.
Okay, next question. What to do to help when your kid W-sits? W-sitting is such a hot topic, and let's just briefly share the difference between like a static W-sit and a dynamic W-sit. We do have a whole separate YouTube video and podcast that we will link in the description that goes into more detail, But really the biggest thing is a static W sit is when our feet are pointing away from our body, like the inside of our ankles are on the ground, and the child is not moving in and out of that position. Their back is slumped, they're probably not crossing midline, they're just sitting in that position, getting a wide base of support and not really moving functionally. Okay, so that's when W sitting is more of a concern. Dynamic W sitting is more of a common transitional movement that we see toddlers mostly go in and out of. So their feet are generally pointed in towards their bottom and they're moving in and out. They're getting up, they're getting out of that W sit position. Their back probably isn't as like slouched over and bent, and it's functional, right? They can move in and out of it. And so that's really the biggest thing if the child is in that static W sit. We want to make sure that we are working on their underlying core strength and we are helping to get them out of that position and working on their core strength in other ways.
Yeah, so if they are sitting in that more static W sit position that they're not able to move in and out of, and we're seeing other concerns maybe with their muscle tone, muscle strength is low, maybe they are clumsy, maybe they're anxious with different movement activities, it could be a sign that there's something else going on, and it would be a good idea to get an in-person evaluation either with a pediatric physical therapist or a pediatric occupational therapist to work on those underlying challenges that are occurring. Like Rachel said, we do have other information podcast YouTube videos on W sitting that dive more into this.
Yep.
All right, next question. For a child who uses the steamroller activity to help before nail cutting, that's a great strategy, by the way, what can we do at doctor's appointments or when we're on the go? So the steamroller activity, this is a really great activity to help calm the nervous system, regulate the body. This is where the child lays on the floor on their stomach and the adult, the caregiver or parent, uses a large ball to steamroll across the child's body and providing some of that deep touch pressure, that proprioceptive input. So it sounds like they are using the steamroller activity as a strategy to help with nail cutting, likely because nail cutting is an anxiety-inducing activity for this child. So what other activities can we use to help this child at doctor's appointments or other activities on the go where maybe they're also feeling anxious?
So my first thought would be, depending on the age, we could try having them wear a compression shirt or like a compression weighted vest out to provide some of that deep pressure, that calming input, because it's mobile. That's the beautiful thing about weighted vests, is that you can wear them anywhere and they're regulating for that nervous system. So have that on hand to use, but also think about transitioning between the car and the doctor's office. Like, you have plenty of time to jump, 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 and hop, 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 and walk on the curb, and push our hands together, and stomp as hard as we can, and incorporate some of those more like big body proprioceptive activities into that transition.
The thing I was thinking of was the listening program from Advanced Brain Technologies. This is a music program that we love. We've talked about it in other videos and our podcast episodes, and this can be really helpful for your child to use on a daily basis, but also to use in the car during the drive to the doctor's office, or they could even listen to it while they're in the waiting room. They could listen to it afterwards to help re-regulate the nervous system after the appointment.
Yeah, so lots of options that you can have on the go, take with you. We do have another YouTube video on proprioception and just like the whole proprioceptive system. So I would definitely recommend that. And I'm thinking like fidgets, have like something for the hands, something to keep the hands busy. So yeah, we'll link some other things in the description. Next question, thoughts on vital links or therapeutic listening, quick shift we are redoing. So I think what this question is referring to is they have used a therapeutic listening program in the past and they're wondering, should we stick with this one? Do you have any feedback? Do you have any thoughts on that therapeutic listening program that we should do? Yes, we do have thoughts. So many of them.
Yeah. Well, I just mentioned one, therapeutic listening program from Advanced Brain Technologies. That's a great program. We could recommend that one every day for many people that we talk to.
And I think that the great thing about that one is it's really simple to incorporate. They have an online feature. They have a membership that you can just plug your headphones in and listen play the app and it's just listening, right? We don't have to do any activities with it. It's just very passive, which is nice. And it's like an exercise for the brain. So we definitely love advanced brain technologies with like quick shift and therapeutic listening. Those ones are great as well, but I believe that we do need to have a provider or a therapist facilitating that and assisting with that. You know, when you're doing any of these brain training programs, it's beneficial to work with a professional and work with a provider. I do like therapeutic listening. I just haven't had personally as much experience with it as I have with advanced brain technology and the listening program, but I really don't think you're gonna go wrong with whatever program you decide to use. I just would make sure that you are talking with your child's OT if they are seeing an OT, and working with a professional.
Last question for today. What are some go-to strategies in an OT session for a super wound up toddler with ASD? Well, if the toddler is wound up, they're high energy, they need to go, 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 we need to meet their sensory threshold first. This means that we need to provide them with the input that their body is seeking out. For a toddler, some of my go-tos are fast linear swinging, jumping and crashing. So I'll often use the mini trampoline and do some crashing onto the large crash pad. And it's gonna be in more of like a controlled way. So you're gonna be counting, you're gonna have a start and a stop to engage them in some communication with you while you're doing this activity. And you're gonna make it quick and fast because they're a toddler, their attention is very short. So that's the first step, I think, is meeting their sensory threshold.
Yeah, and from there, if we're in a clinic setting, I would then help the toddler transition to like a smaller room or a darker room or a quiet room to do some more like function-based, focus-based, play-based activities once we've met that sensory threshold. Try to keep them in an organized place. I just feel like we have more success when we are in like, you know, a calmer sensory environment, like bright lights, lots of activities, lots of toys. I mean, the kiddos are just bing, 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 bouncing all over the place. Like I would be doing the same thing, honestly. So transition to a smaller space, a more calming space, and then do your activities there. But you know, deep pressure, help them transition by doing a turtle crawl into the room with something weighted on their back or holding something on their back. Use the therapeutic brushing protocol if you're trained in that. Just really focus on getting down on their level, staying calm, co-regulating, and just being present and playing with them.
Another big tip for this toddler age range is communication. So providing a way for them to communicate wants and needs using an AAC device or pictures for them to choose from is going to be very important because they might not have the words to express what they need. They might not be communicating verbally at this point. So you want to help teach them different ways to communicate their wants and their needs so they can express, I need to jump, I need to crawl, I need a drink of water, whatever it is that they need to be able to communicate that. And I love incorporating that into our sessions with those big full body movement activities. And then the other thing I was thinking was Rachel had a really good idea of like moving to that quieter, calmer room. And you can even do that for the entire session, the beginning when you're meeting their sensory threshold. Because if you are in the big space with lots of things going on and you're trying to meet their sensory threshold, it might not be effective because visually and auditory wise, they're still being overstimulated by that big environment. So maybe this is a great client to take into the small room and do the entire session in the small room where they're not going to be so overstimulated.
Yeah, so many things. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you learned something new. So if this was helpful for you, let us know. Like we mentioned, this is kind of a new Q&A style type video that we're doing, and we just have so many questions we want to try to help you all out.
If you do have a question that you want us to answer on our next video, there is a form you can fill out. It's linked in the description below, and you can put your question in that form and we will answer it on a future video.
Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We drop a new YouTube video every Tuesday.
And make sure you're following us on Instagram. We are at All Things Sensory Podcast, as well as at Harkla_family.
And we will plan on chatting with you next week. A dynamic W-sit is more of a pretty typical common. Okay.